Hey, this is Derek Whatley. In this video, we're going to take a look at how you can install the OpenShift App Migration Toolset onto a set of OpenShift 3.x clusters. So, in the absence of OperatorHub and OLM on OpenShift 3, we'll actually deploy the whole migration toolset using this operator.yaml file here. And we have in our tmux session here on the bottom a 3.11 cluster, and on the top we have a 3.10 cluster. So inspecting that operator YAML a little bit, I feel good about creating it on my cluster, and we'll do so now. That's going to start up the operator in the OpenShift Migration namespace, which will be created. I'm going to do the same thing on my 3.10 cluster, so we have the operator running in both places, and the operator helps us to install all of the other components that we'll need to migrate apps. After we've done this, we need to tell the operator what it should install for us by creating a migration controller resource on each cluster. So starting on the 3.11 cluster, we're going to check out this controller3.yaml file, and we're going to change some values here so that the controller and the UI are deployed on this destination cluster, which is where we want to migrate our apps to. We'll run OC status to get the API endpoint, and we'll actually plug that into the operator3.yaml file. This is used so that the web UI is able to talk to the correct API endpoint, and it gets loaded into a config map used by the web UI. When we create this controller3.yaml, it'll take a few moments and the operator will start to process that request for us. In the top tmux pane, you can see that I customized the controller to not deploy the web UI or the controller there. This is because we only need the controller and the UI to run on one of our clusters, and we tell people to run it on the destination cluster because that makes the most sense for most scenarios. The next thing we need to worry about is setting the CORS configuration, or the cross-origin resource sharing configuration on these clusters. The first thing I'll do here is actually using the usage guide that I have on the right. I'm going to grab the UI's route, and we're going to plug this into the master config file on each of our OpenShift clusters. And to do this, we will go to etc origin master config. There's instructions in the usage guide for each version of OpenShift. And we'll just make sure that we escape the periods, since this is interpreted as a regular expression. After we do that, we have to follow directions depending on the version of OpenShift to restart the API server. And this is so that it'll pick up our changes. We'll do the same thing for my 3.10 cluster, and this is just so that each of the API servers are able to talk with the migration web UI successfully. Finish those changes up, and once again we'll issue the restart command so that the API server restarts and picks up our changes. And after we do this, it's safe for us to actually go to the migration UI in our browser. It'll already be set up. I should mention here, you'll have to log in using your Cube credentials. It'll already be set up with the host cluster, which is the 3.11 cluster in this case, but we'll want to configure a connection to the 3.10 cluster from here. So we'll call this cluster 3.10, use the API endpoint that we grabbed from above, and then we'll do OC service account get token MIG inside of the OpenShift migration namespace. This is a service account that's created by the operator for us. And when this connection is successful, we can then proceed to creating our first migration plan and running some migrations.